Hi, folks, and welcome to another episode of Careers and Coffee. Really excited to bring on Pam Davis this afternoon to talk to us about her amazing career in the fashion industry and the work she does around mentoring, supporting schools, her business, Fashion Candy Style, all of the different wonderful things that she does. So we're going to bring Pam on to talk a little bit more about her. Pam, how are you doing?
Hello, Jordan. How are you?
I'm all good, Yeah, I'd like to be able to go out and stuff, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
How about you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. It's not the best weather today, so it's a little bit duller, isn't it? So I think that probably helps everybody to just stay in a little bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. So the other, at least you sort of can still meander out and stuff. And the weather recently,
Oh,
28,
it's been really
great.
nice, hasn't it? But no, I'm pretty good. Thank you very much. Keeping busy,
That's always good.
really just kind of refocusing. I think this time has given me the chance to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity to sort of take stock and just sort of plan ahead for the future. I think a little bit,
Yeah,
and also just sort of take care of yourself. I think that's a
yeah,
huge part of it as well. But
totally.
look, today we're here to talk a little bit more about you, your career. Obviously, given world events at the moment, I'm really keen to get your opinion on that as well. But firstly, why don't you
Yeah.
give us a flavour of who you are, what you do, and then I can start firing some questions at you.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so my name's Pam Davis. I'm the very, very proud owner of a company called Fashion Candy Style. Now, I'm just going to break that company down to you. The banner and the mantra is really a unique style, contemporary style of fashion fusion. So, what my mantra is empowering people through style. So, my company deals with every single bit of what I love, and
Yeah,
that is taking it from the top. I am a model first and foremost. I was a model. I started to become a model at the age of 18. I won't tell you how old I am now, but that's been quite some many years. So that really kick-started my career at 18. I then sort of kind of went into different lots of other jobs, and then I formed a company probably about 20 years later. So Fashion Candy Style, as a model, I do that. I work as a freelance and I work for various other places, but I'm also a personal stylist. So I formed myself into that because of my love of fashion. So I'm a personal stylist. I do wardrobe detoxes. I take people shopping. I sort of style lots of different people, like groups, and I have seminars, I have open forums. So that's
yeah.
really one of my real loves because it gets me to go shopping every day, which is one of my real personal loves. I know. If women don't that, it's just great. So that kind of like merged into event management. As you can tell, I really am a people's person. I love talking
Yeah.
to people. And I love gathering people to do great things. So that formed my career into being personal event management. So I produce shows. And what that does is that I literally take an infrastructure of anything what you need to put on a show. So that can be the team backstage, the models, the hairdressers, the photographers, all the
Yeah.
independents, all the retailers. So I do all of that as well. And I'm very proud that I've actually launched Suffolk Fashion Show, but I'm sure we can go into that maybe a little bit later. I also write as well. So again, I'm a fashion writer. I write for the editor for Student Life magazine, which is
Yeah.
a really great magazine, which is based right down at the university. And I also have a column in Vanilla magazine, which is a real fashiony magazine for lots of people who like to shop. And like I said, out of that, I then developed my own model bank. And it's not what it is. It's not an agency. It's a bank of diverse models that from 18 to 80 that I use for all my events. So
Yeah.
basically, I go all of that under the Fashion Candy umbrella.
Blimey. So fair to say you're quite busy then.
I'm quite busy, just a tad busy, just a little bit, but they're everything I love, Jordan. And outside of that, I do voluntary roles as well, but I'm sure like we'll probably talk about that as well. But with regards to Fashion Candy Style, that's my company.
Brilliant. No, thank you so much for sharing that. And we know each other just because Suffolk is a very, very small place in terms of the
It
business
is.
world. And your name kept coming up. And I said, should we just meet up, have lunch? And then, after that, I know you did a load of great schoolwork with us. And
Yeah,
I know we'll come into that. But
yeah,
what I'm keen to talk about just very briefly is everything that's going on at the moment around racism, inequality, protests, and I think anybody who has a platform, I think she's off.
That's all right. Sorry, I just had to say something.
I think anyone who's got, I think, a platform to share for the good, I think people need to do that. So, I mean, what's your take on everything that's been going on lately?
Do you know what, Jordan? I'm going to be honest with you. For the last couple of days, it's been really tough. I think it's because it's really come to the forefront. Everybody's talking about it, and it resonates with obviously me and my authenticity. So to me, I think it's great that people are starting to recognise it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And it's being talked about. It's not being shoved to the side. It's being talked about, and that gives us, like you said, a bit of a platform for us to talk about it. I don't want to get into the real political side of, racism or that kind of side of it. It's just I'm going to sit back, I'm going to listen, and I'm going to talk about it when I need to talk about it. And you've given me this platform now. So what I can say is that if you relate it to education and young people, it really demonstrates, taken from my personal view, the equality of opportunity. And I think you've really, really got to know the importance of what our education is and what we've got to learn and how we're going to bring it to the forefront, because there are going to be confrontations with prejudice along the way. There will be. That's just how it is. I personally took that experience as making me a lot stronger person. I have the ability to do exactly what the person next to me can do as well. It does get a little bit emotional, doesn't it? It's quite tough. But it's not a barrier. It's not, it's not a barrier. It is something that you can relate to your success. You've just got to strive to go through that. And especially in the modelling industry, because a lot of the models, they're probably not seen as normal models. They're not seeing as probably, they just want to be a model. They haven't got anything behind that. That is so not the case. If you take myself for that as well, just because I like modelling, I do like, my education was the most important thing to me. It really was, because it's created me to be where I am now. So I'm really hoping that this sort of like, what we're talking about at the moment, hopefully that's going to get other people to open their minds a bit. And it could be from the top right down to the bottom, to say that person there is exactly the same as what that person can do, regardless of the colour of their skin. And that's kind of what it makes me feel. It's quite passionate, because I know I've experienced a little bit, not too much, because I've kind of had the strength to go through it, because I've had the support behind me. But there's not that many people that have.
I think you're spot on, and I resonate with everything you've said. And I think a key part of that is around education, and it's about people reflecting and educating themselves. And you can do that whether it be watching a fantastic TED talk, hearing what you've just said, reading books, listening to people. I think is a key one. It's a bit like, everybody who did the Blackout Tuesday posting Black Square. Great to see. So just something so emotive, and you're flicking through and it's just a blank screen. You think,
just a blank
this
screen.
Is the time. This is time for change. What I want people to do though is, yes, you've posted a black square, but do something about it. Don't just post something and think it's a trend, and next week think that doesn't look right on my timeline, I'm going to delete it.
I totally agree with you.
Post a black square, read a fantastic book about race and inequality, or pick up the phone to somebody, or next time you see someone around sort of unconscious bias or something, and you think, why didn't that person get hired? Is it because of colour?
Very much.
Say something. And that they're the folks who I really respect. So no, I think you've spot on that. We've just got a question in. So who were your role models growing up?
My role models growing up. I'm going to say that my parents were my role models first and foremost. They really were. But I can honestly say, it might sound a little bit cheesy, but it was my teachers at school.
That's not cheesy, that's good.
I know. They each and every one of them taught me something different. And in every year that I had, from year 1 to 5, because my mum and dad, they were out at work all the time. So they didn't, I used to go to my nan's after school. So we didn't have that real kind of like mum takes you to school, dad picks you up, because they were out there working in a nursing home or nurses and God knows what. So I really looked at my brothers as well, because I'm 5 of 6. I've got 4 elder brothers. But then the teachers, I loved school. I absolutely thought Coppleston School, and I'll say it for as long as I can, it was one of the best schools that I ever, it's the only
Good
one
shout
I
out
ever
for Coppleston there.
I loved Coppleston, and teachers themselves, they were so great because they did give me the opportunity, because they recognised something that was in me to go far. And I think they grabbed it, and they give me the support and made me believe in myself. And I think a lot of people don't. And I think that's why I've become a kind of a mentor, advisor, that kind of thing, in my other role as being a model on a catwalk, because I know I've got personal experience which is going to help them.
As a governor of Coppleston, I just feel so much pride hearing that, and knowing I get to see how hard the staff work and to see the impact, and it changed lives.
It does.
Brilliant to hear. And I mean, in terms of what you're doing now, I mean, what does it mean, firstly, to be a successful woman, and I mean, what then does it mean to be a successful Black woman?
Do you know what, the two major questions there? A successful woman, a successful woman, Jordan. It gives me pride. It really does give me pride that I am putting something out into the beautiful country that I live in, and I am giving people something which is going to help them, because that's what gives me joy. Secondly, as a successful Black woman, I stand proud, and I stand with my head held so high that nothing's going to knock me off unless I've done it. And that, I think, is just really kind of making me strive to become more and more successful at what I do, learning along the way as well, because every day is a school day.
That's what I like to hear. And I mean, in terms of the success you've had, I mean, how did you end up in the roles you're currently doing? What was that pathway after leaving school?
The pathway after leaving school it's really funny, because I left school at 16. I went straight into an admin job, and because that's what happened back in the day. Straight into an admin job. Left school on a Friday. I was in an admin job on the Monday, and I was a young mum. So 2 years later, I had my daughter, but that didn't stop me. So from 18 onwards, I kind of knew that what I wanted to do, and that was work in the fashion industry, but I couldn't because I was a young mum. But it didn't stop me from building the foundations. So what I did was I built the foundations to become a model, and done as much as I could do, and I went to every single other job there was, from a phone shop to a car showroom, selling this, selling tea to China. That's what I was doing. And that built me up to what I wanted to do eventually. I ended up at Archant. I worked as a sales executive, which I thoroughly enjoyed, because it then taught me all the things that I have to do outside of an office. And it was that point that I realised that I wanted to do my own thing. So that's what kind of, I suppose it just gave me all those little bits of ingredients, from school to working in jobs, becoming a mother, all of those to where I am now. And I couldn't be more prouder. I really couldn't.
Brilliant. And I mean, talking about the fashion industry, it's a huge industry with so many different roles. I mean, and obviously part of the creative industry. Why is it really important to you?
Oh, you know what? It's really, really important, because we have to live with it. I mean, everybody has to wear clothes. As much as something.
I mean, you are looking fabulous today. I mean, the ensemble there.
I thought I'd try. You have no idea what I have underneath this blouse, but it's all good for the top. It's my Zoom clothes. But no, fashion is it will never go away. It's one of those industries which I know will never wane. So I always wanted to go into an industry where it's not going to stop, because then I would have no idea what I'm going to get into. So fashion will give me that. It changes as quick as it does. I love working like that. I love working with a quick change. I love different things every single day. I know that it could change tomorrow, and then I'll have to adjust to it. But I prefer to work like that. So that's the perfect industry for me.
I mean, do you think there's any sort of misconceptions around the fashion industry, that perhaps people go into it with sort of the wrong mindset about what it's actually like?
Yeah, without a doubt, Jordan. They go through in it thinking it's going to be really, really easy. Is if you've got a really pretty face or you're very handsome, that's going to get you to the top. And that is so far from the truth. You have to really work at it because it's saturated. It's saturated with beautiful people or the next best designer or the next best independent boutique. If one boutique's got something, the other one's got it. So you've really got to work hard at being personal. And I think that's what really makes a difference.
No, I think you're spot on. And we've got a question on the screen as well. So,
Yeah.
how did you become a model initially, and was it an ambition whilst you were at school?
Yeah, it was. But the first part of that question, how did I become a model initially? I took myself off to London, as you do, seeking your fortune to become a model. And I have no idea what I was doing, but I ended up at this sort of party for a magazine called Root Magazine. Funnily enough, it's a black orientated magazine. Stumbled across it. They had a model of the month competition, which is how magazines used to be, model of the month, and I won it. And that kind of, I had then had a photo session with a really, his name was Joan Hipkiss. I've no idea how I remember that all them years ago, but he was a really famous photographer back in that time, and I had a session with him, and that's where the bug was for me. I then thought, this is what I need to do. I like being in front of a camera, and I like dressing.
Yeah.
So it was an ambition that I was not too much at school. I think I was more so, I did every sport, Jordan. I was captain of every team, and it makes me sound like I was wonderful. However, I didn't like cross-country running because anyway, it was that kind of a thing where I loved sport. I loved anything social. The ones that I'd done well at school were social studies, domestic science, those really sort of socially skilled things, English and, the language, because I knew that's I needed to do that when I left school, is to make sure I've got all my grammar right and make sure that I can speak properly. History, however, I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted to be a historian, so I suppose that wasn't one of my subjects, So yes, it was an ambition while I was at school, not maybe so much as a model, but to get into something which is going to have this bubble of talking and hosting and doing that. And then I merged the two together.
And I suppose, for anyone aspiring to follow a similar path to you around being a model, or just working in that sector and industry, it's not necessarily about, yeah, you've got a beautiful face and a nice figure. It's also about all the other things. So perhaps being personable, confident, all of you agree with that?
That comes before the first one, Jordan, if I'm honest with you. The interpersonal skills, your confidence, you've got to be able to communicate with people. You've got to be reliable. You've got to be
Yeah.
a team player. All of those things you've got to be before you can really look really beautiful, because you can just take them off the street and they don't have to say anything. But sorry, I'm going to go back to my experience with this morning, and I'm sure you might touch on that. But I think that's what was really great for me, because I was able to be put into this live TV world. All of those skills that I had enabled me to become a regular model with them, because I was able to talk to everybody else. And I think that's what they like there.
And I mean, we might as well tackle that one whilst
Let's do
you're
it.
right now. You've name dropped. So you are a regular model on ITV's This Morning.
I am.
So with
Yeah.
the big fish, Phil and Holly. I mean, what's that like? That must have been huge. What was your first feeling when you first went on live and yeah, millions, hundreds of thousands of people, they were watching? What's going through your head?
I don't know what was going through my head, Jordan. I think I was so inside, I was crumbling. Outside, I was looking very pretty because that's what I needed to do. But
Yeah.
I have to take it back to when I first met the actual stylist, which they have stylists, and Phil and Holly were the host, but there was a stylist, and it was Got One. I built my career, or I built my vision on Got One and his How to Look Good Naked and styling people and that kind of thing. So for actually knowing, I got a phone call to say you're on Thursday with Phil and Holly and Got One was just the most, I'll never forget it. And what I'll never ever forget is sitting in the green room and he comes past. I think I lost my voice, Jordan. I just was. It was one of those surreal moments. And I was so proud to be asked, for one, and secondly, to be in a situation where at that time, I mean, I've been with them 4 years now, so it's about 4 years ago. So I was, past that sort of lovely age. So I was able to keep everything in here and not let it show on my face, because it's really easy to do that. And you're like, God. But what happened after that subsequently, they asked me back. And I kept thinking, well, this is even better. And 3 years later, I'm still with them. Obviously not now, but meeting Phil and Holly for the first time, oh my gosh, they were my heroes. So I was just dumbstruck, I did hold it down, I must admit. I just said, can I have a picture? That real sort of, excuse me, you're shaking underneath. So subsequently, Jordan, I've worked with the names all over. I could drop so many names that I've met, Eamon and Ruth, and they've taken me to Birmingham, where they do a road show every year. So I've done 2 years on that with them. So I've spent 5 days with the entire crew. What it's taught me is that's where I want to be. I'm going to strive to continue to try and do something with the TV side. So that's my vision.
That's so cool. I mean, and now you've hit the big time. You're on Careers and Coffee, so it's another career highlight today. All right. But look,
this is my highlight, Jordan. With
it
you.
should be. It's everyone's highlight. So look, now I'm keen to talk a little bit more about young people and some of the voluntary work that you do. So not only with some of the work that you've been doing with your old school at Coppleston, but also I know you're a grand mentor with Voluntary Matters. So I mean, for those who don't know, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Grand Mentors is? Because we had Stephen Skeet on recently about it.
Did you? Yeah.
But yeah, it was brilliant. And we had Darren Lurt, another Grand Mentor, and Cole, the mentee. But tell us a little bit about your experience of that and why you do it.
Yeah, my experience of Volunteering Matters is fantastic. I mean, I've gone through the whole process, invited by them to come and work alongside these children who have come from very, unprivileged homes, and they're at that age where they're quite vulnerable. So they may be just at the end of their college, and they're now going out into the big wide world of being an adult. So I was brought in as a professional. And we have to go through a series of things to get to where we are. It's learning about how you deal with certain situations with vulnerable people. So I've done about sort of 6 months of that. Then you have your match. And I was matched with a wonderful, mentee. And we're just about getting back to where we can now, because obviously COVID has taken us back a bit. But it's been eye-opening for me, because I'm then faced with this person who is almost the same age as one of my children. And I think that's why I related to her quite well as well. And I know that I'm making a difference to her. It's an hour a week, every week. It could be a bit more, it could be a bit less, but an hour of my time to see this person, to make a difference, is what it's all about. And it's an absolutely fantastic charity, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
That's fantastic. And I mean, also, we've got a question. So it's a dream for many, but what would your advice be to someone who wants to be a model nowadays?
Oh, right. Okay. If they wanted to be a model nowadays, they've really got to, what they've got to do is they've got to firstly get some really good prints. Okay. And that doesn't mean just going out and taking a few pictures on your camera and putting them in an album. You've got to assign yourself to a good photographer and build yourself a portfolio. But what you've got to do is probably also join someone like me, or someone like what I do. Is it's a bit of a mentor basis as to thinking, how am I going to become a model? What do I have to do? Because what you don't do is go straight to London, because that's what a lot of people do. And then the next thing you know, they've taken a load of money from them and they get no work. Stay where you are, build your skills, talk to lots of people, get yourself some really good pictures, and then maybe just farm them off to a few local agencies to where you are. And then they don't go too big, because it's a hell of a long path to get there. You need to just keep it really local and just see what happens and what response you get from that.
No, I think that's spot on. I think, again, that's good advice for a lot of different sectors and careers. if you want to go into a certain job or sector or industry or whatever, having somebody there who you can speak to, who can act as a bit of a mentor and who can tell you the good and the bad and what you're doing is right or wrong. But then getting some experience, whether it be work experience, shadowing someone, just picking up the phone and saying, I've been thinking about this. What's your thoughts on it? I think that's so crucial. And you've done that as well with going back to Coppleston, and I know speaking to some of our students there. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that when you came in to speak to students?
Oh, they made my day, Jordan. They were so engaging and they were so lovely. And I know how hard it is to get the attention of a group of that age children. My goodness, it's not the easiest job in the world, but I think I captured their imagination because I was talking from my experience, being where in the school that they were in. They're sitting there now. I was in that school, and telling them what that education is so important for them to grab before they come out of it. So, and obviously some of them were in the design and the fashion and that kind of thing, which is another step once they get out of there. But I think what I've done is engage them because they needed to do what the education before they can even think about going out into the big wide world. That is just the huge, because it was important for me. So I think I just hope that it's going to be important for them. They were such a lovely group of students, and I went round and talked to them. And they were asking me questions, and kids don't ask questions apart from what's the Wi-Fi code, mum, or that's most of the time. But they did. They asked me questions. I went round to them afterwards. I remember it so clearly, and I had to get to do it again. Went round, and they were showing me their work, and I was giving them constructive criticism. They were taking it on board. They weren't feeling like I was criticising them. They were actually sitting up, looking at me and talking to me. And that's all. That's what I was there to do. And I think they came away with, they'd learned something. I hope they did.
Yeah, and I know that because I popped in for some of that session.
You did.
And I always get nervous when I see you, whether it be either on this or in person, because I was thinking, bloody hell, what do I wear? There's a lot of panic hours before I think, is that Tiger or that? But I remember coming into that, and they were just so engaged, and they were sort of hanging on your every word. And then, because not only did you do the talk afterwards, then one of the team then got out all of their work, and you sort of went round and gave them pointers over, what's good, what could do with a little bit more improvement. I thought, wow, imagine. Yeah, I wish I had that at school, when you've got a professional coming in the sector and industry that you want to work in the future, and saying that's really good work. I mean, what that must do to just how positive that must feel, it's astonishing. So big thank you from me.
No, it was I was excited to do it, and I'm really glad that it came away from me, because I'll be happy to do it at any time. Obviously we've just had to come off doing stuff like that, haven't we? So I really hope I get the opportunity to do it again, maybe with the next year or the year after, and the ones all coming up. So definitely. We've got another question.
You've got another one, see. So what are the best things about living and working in Suffolk?
It's living in Suffolk. It's not a city. As much as we love cities, I like going into it and I like coming back out of it. But what I like about Suffolk, it's small enough to handle. So what I've lived here all my life, so I know everybody, which is great, because
I know you do. Not many people don't know Pam.
I hope that's a good thing, John.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
No, living in Suffolk is fantastic. Working in Suffolk is even better, because I've created this kind of like community, or I'm in a community where everybody knows each other, and everybody I know in my industry, they all live in Suffolk. So you're able to keep up with them. You can see them outside of work or whatever. But I really enjoy living and working in Suffolk. It doesn't have enough sun in Suffolk, I don't think. But apart from that, it's okay.
No, I think you're looking for like Costa del Sol there. So I mean, just because we need to wrap up, I'm going to ask one last question. I mean, there's a lot of students at the moment, and I'm asking all my guests this question around, they're all about to move on to their next pathway, whatever that might be, whether it be going to secondary school, whether it be going to college,
Yeah.
uni, or indeed the world of work. I mean, what's your message to them? And in particular, what's your message to young women out there who have the aspirations to do what you want to do, or just to do anything? What's your advice to them?
My advice to that is to believe in yourself. Make sure that you know your worth. Okay, grab onto that ability that you have and do not let it go.
Yeah,
Strive to be polite to people. Always be polite. Have you good interpersonal skills talking to people. Makes you reliable, and always say please and thank you. I know it sounds really basic, but that really, really does help in the long run.
yeah,
It really, really does. And that really helps me. My mum always said, and I always tell my children, it costs nothing to be nice. And that really will get you a real long way. So I think for young children, if this is what you want to do, that's your inner belief, go for it. Grab for the support for people who are out there to support you. Don't think there isn't, because there's a lot of support out there in every single bit of it. Go to people, ask them for it. Don't be afraid, because I, for one, I know I will always give time for anybody who needs a bit of mentoring. It's lovely.
What a great way to end. Pam, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I know there was a moment of panic when you joined about 30 seconds before you were going to go like, no, it's nice and calm. It's nice and calm. But no, thank you so much for your time. I think I could sit here for hours and talk to you and learn about your life and career. But no, thank you so much. And have a wonderful afternoon, and looking forward to catching up with you in person very soon.
Much. Thank you,
Cheers,
Jordan.
Pam.
Bye-bye.
So, folks, that's Pam Davis. I mean, what to say? So inspiring. Fantastic leader, fantastic role model. Talking also about racism, inequality, and her experience and her amazing career in the fashion industry. So, big thanks to Pam for coming on today to talk to me. So below there is a short survey which we're asking people to fill out. I know it's a survey, but it only takes 30 seconds. Just gives us an idea of the sort of content that you want us to be sharing on our channel. You can see all the details about Pam on her LinkedIn and her business. So if you want to get in touch, just drop her a line. She'd be more than happy to speak to you, especially if you're aspiring to go into a career and the industry that she is in. So yeah, big thanks to Pam today. So that is all of our Careers and Coffee done this week. Next week, we have on two very interesting guests. So we have on John Yarm, who is the Chief Executive of the Careers and Enterprise Company. Really looking forward to speaking to John about all of the work that the Careers and Enterprise Company is doing nationwide. That's on Tuesday at 12:30. And then on Thursday, we have on the MP for Ipswich, Tom Hunt. So Tom will be speaking to us about what it means to be an MP, all of the work that he's been doing to support people in Ipswich during coronavirus. So next week we have on John Yarm, Careers and Enterprise Company, and Tom Hunt, MP for Ipswich. So looking forward to seeing you, and have a fantastic